On September 23, 2000, Chelsea striker Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank scored a stunning volley against Manchester United in a thrilling 3-3 league game, marking one of his most memorable strikes in English football. That goal inspired a 7-year-old fan from Belgium, Romelu Lukaku Bolingoli, to fall in love with the club.
You've seen growing up that you've always
Hasselbank?
wished. Yeah,
Hasselbank, a lot, because he scored so many nice goals. I remember this goal at Manchester United, the volley with the right foot. It's quite amazing.
11 years later, he signed for Chelsea, with many viewing him as a future replacement for the club's most revered marksman, Didier Drogba.
There's space as well, and Nelka's waiting in the middle. Drogba goes on and on and on, and scores!
But what transpired afterward left him with regrets, pain, and bad blood, sneaking through the exit door as a villain.
Is inside the quadrant. Bit of a shove in there from Ronaldo. Good header. It's in.
Around late November 2008, Chelsea, under Luis Felipe Scolari, began to falter after a strong start to the season. The Blues had gone unbeaten in their first 12 games across all competitions, topping the Premier League table by late November. However, the team's form started to decline from that point onward. This downturn bred issues within the squad. Most notably, a fallout between the Brazilian manager and Chelsea's attacking stalwart, Didier Drogba. Drogba had been nursing a knee injury from the prior campaign, which caused him to miss pre-season and the early matches, disrupting Scolari's plans. When he returned, Scolari preferred and retained Nicolas Anelka as the lone striker in a 4-3-3 formation. Drogba, eager to reclaim his spot in the starting lineup, grew impatient playing second fiddle and was at times shoehorned into unfamiliar roles. Scolari interpreted this frustration as defiance, a challenge to his authority, while Drogba saw it as a sign of his growing alienation under a manager who didn't trust him. Scolari, known for his success with Brazilian players, then set his sights on Inter Milan's Adriano Leite Ribeiro. He wanted to swap Drogba for Adriano, believing the Chelsea striker wielded too much influence in the dressing room. However, owner Roman Abramovich rejected the idea and reassured Drogba of his importance, effectively quashing the swap. Scolari was sacked shortly afterward, on February 9, 2009, following a poor run of results, and Adriano never joined Chelsea. Gus Hiddink's arrival in February 2009 as interim boss sparked a revival. Drogba's goal in the 2009 FA Cup final reaffirmed his importance, thwarting Scolari's earlier push to replace him with Adriano. Overall, the 2008-2009 season was a dip for Drogba compared to his peak years. His goal tally of 14 in all competitions was his lowest in a full Chelsea season at that point. Though injuries set him back, age was also becoming a concern. At 31, uncertainties about how long he could maintain his top form were beginning to linger. But he re-established himself as a key figure the next campaign under Carlo Ancelotti, reclaiming his status as one of Europe's top strikers. He plundered 37 goals across 44 appearances in all competitions that season, his most prolific campaign, earning him the Premier League Golden Boot and contributing to Chelsea's Premier League and FA Cup double. As Drogba resurged, the young man who became a fan of the club after Hasselbank's sumptuous strike against Manchester United in 2000 was fledgling miles away in Belgium. At age 16, he was already imposing, nearly unplayable, and dominating the league scoring charts in his debut season. He scored 15 goals in 24 league appearances, finishing as the Belgian Pro League's top scorer and helping Anderlecht win the title. While Drogba began to show signs of slowing down the following season, the Anderlecht Wonderboy's name kept echoing beyond Belgium. Across his 98 senior appearances for Anderlecht before turning 19, he tallied 41 goals and 18 assists, an extraordinary output for a teenager. Comparisons to Drogba had already started, as they shared some similarities. At Anderlecht, Lukaku, even as a teenager, stood out for his size, strength, and athleticism, traits that mirrored Drogba's powerful frame. Lukaku's height, around 6.3, and muscular build allowed him to dominate defenders, much like Drogba did. By 2011, at age 33, The Chelsea faithful knew their most reliable striker's days at the bridge were painfully drawing to a close. His attacking teammate Nicolas Anelka was similarly aging, and Fernando Torres, signed in January 2011 for a record £50 million to refresh the attack, struggled with form. English striker Daniel Sturridge was still developing. Bolstering the striking ranks made sense. With Lukaku already having a soft spot for Chelsea and the Blues later showing interest, it seemed like a match made in heaven. The two clubs reached an agreement on a fee, reported to be £18 million, and in the summer of 2011, Lukaku was signed from Anderlecht.
Romelu, first of all, welcome to Chelsea. How does it feel to finally be here?
Very happy. It's a dream come true. I dreamed about it since I was 10 years old to play here. So now that I'm here, between all the players that I watched on TV last season, and now I can shake hands with them, train with them, play with them, it's a dream come true.
You mentioned it.
Lukaku's arrival was part of a broader strategy to inject youth into the attack, but he wasn't expected to step straight into the starting lineup right away. His flame of happiness flickered high at first, only to be snuffed out by a gale of despair. He spent most of the season playing for the reserves, unable to displace any of the strikers he joined. When Anelka left in January 2012, Lukaku still played fourth fiddle to Didier Drogba, Fernando Torres and Daniel Sturridge. With Drogba and Torres as the main strikers, Chelsea went on to win the UEFA Champions League that season, defeating Bayern Munich in the final on May 19, 2012. Lukaku was deeply disappointed with his peripheral role in the campaign, and after his side's triumph in the final, he refused to hold the trophy, explaining, "It wasn't me, but my team that won." Nonetheless, Lukaku also described the period as helpful, crediting it with building the mentality and work ethic that shaped his career. The experience motivated him to seek more opportunities, leading to a season-long loan. Drogba left Chelsea after the 2011-12 season, but at that point, the void seemed too big for Lukaku to fill. He was loaned to West Bromwich Albion for the 2012-13 season, where he scored 17 Premier League goals, outscoring all of Chelsea's strikers that year, despite being on loan. In response to claims that he wanted to stay with West Brom for another year, Lukaku told the press he still wished to become a legend at Stamford Bridge. Many felt he was ready, and new Blues boss Jose Mourinho initially intended to integrate the young striker into Chelsea's first team for the 2013-14 season. But an unexpected audition awaited him. Having won the Europa League, Chelsea faced a familiar foe, Bayern Munich, in the UEFA Super Cup final in Prague on August 30th, 2013. Lukaku, subbed in during extra time, saw his decisive penalty saved by Manuel Neuer, handing Bayern a 5-4 shootout victory after a 2-2 draw. The penalty miss exposed doubts about Lukaku's readiness for Chelsea's high-pressure environment. With Fernando Torres, Demba Ba, and Samuel Aerto as other striking options, Mourinho had initially planned to send Demba Ba on loan, with interest from Arsenal. But events after the penalty miss changed the transfer plans. Lukaku felt unable to compete with Chelsea's established strikers, Torres, Ba and Aerto, and requested a move shortly after the Super Cup defeat, believing he needed time away from the club to regain confidence. 4 days later, on September 2nd, 2013, Lukaku was loaned to Everton for the 2013-14 season. At Chelsea, the Belgian was a muted hue, but when loaned out, he shone like a star the heavens pursue. Just as he had at West Brom, he excelled at Goodison Park, scoring 15 Premier League goals during the 2013-14 season. But upon returning to Chelsea in the summer of 2014, Lukaku still faced stiff competition to become the main striker. Mourinho had signed Diego Costa, who became the focal point of the attack, and Lukaku wasn't content to play backup. He later admitted he lacked the patience to wait for his chance, a sentiment Mourinho echoed, saying Lukaku didn't want to stay and fight, and never fully explained his desire to leave.
Romelu was always very clear with us that in his mentality, in his approach, was not highly motivated to come to a competitive situation at Chelsea. He wanted to play for Chelsea, but he wanted to be clearly the first choice striker, which in a club of our dimension is very difficult to promise to a player that first choice status, and that reduces immediately his desire to come to us.
Chelsea, meanwhile, saw an opportunity to cash in on a player who didn't fit their immediate plans, especially with Everton willing to pay a hefty fee after his stellar loan spell. Tactically, Mourinho favoured a single striker system, and Costa's physicality and work rate aligned better with his vision than Lukaku's still developing style. In July 2014, Chelsea sold Romelu Lukaku to Everton for £28 million, netting a £10 million profit on the £18 million they had paid Anderlecht for him in 2011. No longer a blue, but still in blue at Everton, Lukaku found the atmosphere he had long craved. With unlimited game time and the role of first-choice striker, he repaid that faith diligently, growing from strength to strength. Smashing records and developing into an elite centre-forward, he left a lasting mark. Across 133 matches in his 3 years at Everton, Lukaku netted 71 goals, surpassing Toffee's legend Duncan Ferguson to become Everton's all-time leading scorer in the Premier League era. He was Everton's top scorer in every season he spent at the club and became the first foreign player to score over 80 Premier League goals before age 24, as well as one of only a few to score over 10 goals in 5 consecutive Premier League seasons at that point. After his third season, Lukaku felt ready for higher-level football. He wanted to join a team writing new chapters by winning titles, not just resting on past glories. He revealed to Everton his desire to compete in the Champions League, which he saw as essential for his career progression. On that basis, he turned down a lucrative contract extension from Everton, reportedly worth £140,000 per week. When Romelu Lukaku signalled his intent to leave Everton in the summer of 2017, the two teams showing the most interest were Manchester United and his former club, Chelsea. Chelsea, under Antonio Conte, viewed Lukaku as the ideal replacement for Diego Costa, whose relationship with Conte had deteriorated, leading to his eventual departure to Atletico Madrid. Conte's tactical system relied heavily on a physical, goal-scoring focal point up top, and Lukaku's profile, proven in the Premier League, young, and with room to grow, fit perfectly. Unfortunately for Chelsea, Manchester United prevailed in signing Lukaku from Everton in the summer of 2017 through a combination of swift negotiation, an irresistible offer, and Jose Mourinho's prior relationship with the player. Manchester United agreed to an initial £75 million fee with Everton, with potential add-ons pushing the total value toward £90 to £100 million, outpacing a late push from Chelsea, who had also matched the bid. Lukaku's agent, Mino Raiola, played a big role, favouring United due to higher agent fees and his history of brokering deals with the club, including Paul Pogba's transfer the previous year. Missing out on Lukaku left Antonio Conte frustrated and disappointed. He had identified Lukaku as his top target to bolster the squad's attacking options following their 2016-17 Premier League title win. When Chelsea missed out on Lukaku, they signed Alvaro Morata from Real Madrid instead.
Bolo, mon gars, bien quoi? C'est carré? C'est carré? Rendez-vous demain à l'entraînement. Rendez-vous? Demain à l'entraînement. T'as dit quoi? Demain à l'entraînement. Rendez-vous demain à l'entraînement. C'est carré. Yes, sir!
His time at Old Trafford, spanning just 2 seasons from 2017 to 2019 despite signing a 5-year contract, was a mix of promise and frustration. His stint started brightly, but faded over time. In his debut season, Lukaku hit the ground running, scoring 10 goals in his first 9 appearances across all competitions, including a brace on his Premier League debut in a 4-0 win over West Ham, Though he finished the season with 27 goals and 9 assists in 51 appearances, his form dipped late in the campaign, and he managed just 1 goal in his final 9 outings. This drew criticism for inconsistent finishing and a perceived lack of movement, despite United finishing second in the league and reaching the FA Cup final. A sharp decline followed in his second season, and initial difficulties were evident, managing just 4 goals in his first 14 league matches, calling into question his physical condition and first touch. Following Mourinho's sacking in December 2018 and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's arrival, Lukaku briefly revived, scoring 6 goals in 3 games in early 2019, including a brace in a historic Champions League comeback against Paris Saint-Germain. Yet his overall role diminished as Solskjaer favoured pace and pressing, qualities young striker Marcus Rashford better embodied, reducing Lukaku's game time. Off the field, Lukaku also felt the club scapegoated him alongside Paul Pogba and Alexis Sanchez, and he felt unprotected by the club. He informed Solskjaer in late April 2019, following a match against Chelsea, that he wanted to depart. A key factor was Solskjaer's tactical decision to play him on the right wing, notably during a match against West Ham in April 2019, which Lukaku cited as the moment he knew his time at United was over, despite Solskjaer wanting him to stay. In July 2019, Juventus were heavily linked with Lukaku, with multiple sources, including Sky in Italy and ESPN, confirming Manchester United and Juventus had opened talks for a swap deal involving Paulo Dybala. The transfer talks gained traction, but the deal ultimately fell through due to complications, including Dybala's reluctance to join United. While waiting to leave, he infuriated the club and some of his teammates. Romelu Lukaku tweeted a video revealing confidential Manchester United training data from a sprint session held on July 10th. The video displayed the maximum running speeds of the entire squad, showing Lukaku as the second fastest behind Diogo Dalot. The tweet, captioned with "lack of pace" and a laughing emoji, was intended to counter criticism about his speed. However, it exposed sensitive performance stats, notably highlighting Luke Shaw as the slowest, followed by Juan Mata and Nemanja Matic. Manchester United ordered Lukaku to delete the tweet, as it angered manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and several teammates, particularly Shaw, who felt publicly shamed. Around that time, he was linked with another club from Serie A, Inter Milan. Antonio Conte, who had previously tried to sign him for Chelsea, was keen to work with him at Inter Milan. While waiting for the deal to be completed, he was embroiled in another controversy. Manchester United had sidelined him from first-team activities, and the club had instructed him to train with the under-23 squad if he was to remain with United, as he was no longer part of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plans. Lukaku felt hurt and isolated by the decision, and he travelled to Brussels and trained with Anderlecht's under-18 squad at their Neopede complex. He was pictured in Anderlecht's purple Joma kit, which embarrassed United, as its players are contracted to wear Adidas. This unauthorized session was seen as a breach of club rules, and he was fined 2 weeks' wages, approximately £400,000. But shortly afterwards, his £74 million move to Inter Milan was finalised, leaving Old Trafford acrimoniously.
It was time now for Rome to go, because I think we got a good deal, he's happy, so I think both parties ended that deal as it should be. Rome...
At the Italian capital, he was welcomed like a hero and instantly felt at home. Lukaku thrived immediately at Inter, scoring 34 goals in his first season, suggesting that United's systems, whether Mourinho's rigidity or Solskjaer's shift, never fully unlocked his potential. Conte deployed a 3-5-2 formation, pairing Lukaku with Lautaro Martinez in a two-striker setup, This partnership gave Lukaku a dynamic foil. Martinez's movement and tenacity complemented Lukaku's physicality and aerial dominance. Unlike at Manchester United, where he was often isolated as a lone striker, this system ensured consistent support, allowing him to focus on his best attributes, holding up play, making runs behind defenses, and finishing chances. Conte also pushed Lukaku to shed excess weight, refine his first touch, become more explosive, and enhance his ball control. This personal investment paid off. Lukaku credited Conte with reviving his confidence, saying the manager gave him a clear role and belief in his abilities after he felt undervalued at United. After winning the Serie A title in the 2020-21 season, Lukaku's second year with the club, Inter, facing severe financial difficulties due to mounting debts and the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, needed to raise around €100 million while cutting the wage bill by 20%. Suning Holdings, the club's owners, planned to sell high-value players to stabilize finances. Conte, who had just led Inter to the title, was unwilling to continue with a weakened squad, as this clashed with his ambitions to build on the team's success. Conte's philosophy centered on maintaining a competitive, title-contending team, but Suning's directive to prioritize financial recovery over sporting continuity created a rift. In May 2021, club president Stephen Zhang informed Conte that offers for any player would be considered, which Conte saw as dismantling the project he had built. Lukaku, who had scored 24 league goals and had been named Serie A MVP, was their most valuable asset. Chelsea, his former club, had been monitoring his situation after hearing about Inter's financial plight. Fresh off their 2021 Champions League victory, were in the market for a top-tier striker to strengthen their attack. Manager Thomas Tuchel and the club's leadership identified Lukaku as their top target after failing to secure Erling Haaland from Borussia Dortmund, whose transfer fee and wage demands were deemed too high. Chelsea initially tested the waters with a bid of around €100 million, including left-back Marcos Alonso to sweeten the deal. Inter rejected this offer outright, stating that Lukaku was not for sale. Lukaku initially expressed loyalty to Inter, stating he was happy and committed to the club after their Scudetto win and had no intention of forcing a move. However, Chelsea's persistence and the allure of returning to the Premier League, where he had unfinished business, began to sway him. Reports suggest he privately expressed willingness to move if Inter's financial situation required it. Inter's owners, facing debts exceeding €400 million, were under pressure to raise funds. Selling either Lukaku or teammate Achraf Hakimi, both prized assets, was seen as a way to stabilize finances. Chelsea returned with an improved €105 million offer, excluding player exchanges. This bid was still below Inter's valuation, as they demanded at least €120 million for their star striker. Inter's reluctance to sell persisted, but their financial constraints weakened their negotiating position. Chelsea's owner, Roman Abramovich, was heavily involved, approving substantial funds to secure the deal and intensifying negotiations. Chelsea submitted a final bid of €115 million in early August 2021, and this time, the offer met Inter's revised expectations, as it provided substantial cash without player swaps. Inter reluctantly agreed to the transfer. The deal was finalized on August 12, 2021, and the £97.5 million fee was a club record transfer for Chelsea at the time. Lukaku was on his way to Chelsea. At the Italian capital, the fans adored him as Big Rom, a king who ended Juventus' 9-year grip on Serie A, so his departure, especially after he'd publicly pledged loyalty earlier that summer, stung deeply. Lukaku's exit felt like a personal affront. Murals of him were defaced, and a banner outside the San Siro read, "It doesn't matter who runs away in the rain, it matters who stays in the storm. Bye, Romelu."
I'm really happy to be here. And, I can't wait to help them and to add something new to
He revealed he's been speaking to Chelsea legend Didier Drogba for advice.
But fate knew something Lukaku didn't. he was not destined to succeed at Chelsea, no matter how prepared he felt. Much like his time at Manchester United, his return from Inter Milan in August 2021 began with promise, but quickly unraveled into a disappointing and frustrating chapter for both player and club. He scored on his Premier League debut against Arsenal in August 2021 and added 3 more goals in his next 4 league games. However, injuries and form issues soon derailed him. A month-long ankle injury in October sidelined him, and a bout of COVID-19 in December further disrupted his rhythm. By the end of the season, he managed just 8 goals in 26 Premier League appearances, a stark contrast to his 24-goal haul in 36 Serie A games for Inter the previous year. His overall impact felt underwhelming for a striker signed to be Chelsea's spearhead. Tactically, Lukaku struggled to fit into Thomas Tuchel's system. Tuchel favored a fluid, high-pressing 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-3 setup that relied on mobility and interplay, attributes better suited to players like Kai Havertz or Timo Werner than Lukaku's more static physical style. At Chelsea, just as at United, he was often isolated as a lone number 9, lacking the service or space to exploit his strengths. His hold-up play was decent, but his lack of pressing and poor link-up play frustrated teammates and fans alike. Following Chelsea's 1-0 defeat to Manchester City on January 15, 2022, Thomas Tuchel strongly rebuked the Belgian, pointing out the forwards' frequent ball losses and poor possession play.
Romelu Lukaku up front, was he getting the service? It didn't seem that way.
Sometimes he needs to do the service. I think he's included in this. He had many ball losses without any pressure, in many ball losses in very promising circumstances. He had a huge chance, so he's included in this. Of course, we want to serve him, but he's part of the team, and the performance up front, like especially in first half, was we can do much better, and we need to do much.
Off-field issues compounded the problem. In December 2021, Lukaku gave an unauthorized Sky Sport Italia interview, expressing discontent with his role at Chelsea and a desire to return to Inter at a still good level. This sparked fury among Chelsea supporters, who felt betrayed by their record signing, and led to him being dropped for a key match against Liverpool. He apologized, but the damage was done. Trust had eroded, and his relationship with Tuchel and the fan base never fully recovered. By the summer of 2022, with Chelsea finishing 3rd in the Premier League but trophyless beyond the Club World Cup, Lukaku pushed for an exit. He returned to Inter on a season-long loan for €8 million plus add-ons, a move that suited both parties, as Lukaku was unhappy and Chelsea aimed to cut losses temporarily. Fans, still smarting from his 2021 departure, gave him a lukewarm reception upon his return to Inter. They made it clear he'd need to earn their respect back through humility and sweat.
Observing how he left for Chelsea, they've said this: "We took note of Lukaku's betrayal and we were extremely disappointed. With time, we can even forgive such things to a footballer, but the facts won't change. Now, Romelu, let's kick and run."
His 2022-23 season at Inter was hampered by injuries. A thigh strain sidelined him for 2 months, and a lingering hamstring issue further disrupted his campaign, limiting him to 14 goals in 37 appearances across all competitions. He didn't return to Stamford Bridge after the loan ended. Instead, he spent the 2023-24 season on loan at AS Roma, where he scored 21 goals in 47 games, a respectable return but irrelevant to Chelsea's plans. By mid-2024, under new manager Enzo Maresca, Chelsea made it clear he had no future at the club. In August 2024, he was sold permanently to Napoli for £30 million, a £67.5 million loss on their initial investment. From a promising kid in Belgium, dreaming of playing for his favorite club, Chelsea, and even drawing comparisons to the club's most revered legendary marksman, Didier Drogba, once seen as his future replacement, fate knew something Lukaku didn't. He was not destined to succeed at Stamford Bridge, a realization that came too late. Whenever he felt ready to take on the Stamford Bridge challenge, doom greeted him. And when he finally learned his lessons, he made a decision that not only severed his bond with the Stamford Bridge faithful, but also left bad blood, ultimately casting him as a villain in their eyes.